let's talk about all of the mistakes that I made when I was in the OCS program at Marine OCS. Everybody's gonna have those like famous stories of mistakes that they made because the whole program, the whole 6 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, however long your increment is, you are going to make mistakes. But if you can make less of them, then you're gonna have a much better time than some of the other candidates. First one, I didn't ever buy a highlighter. And you're probably like, oh, like, why do you need a highlighter at OCS? Well, at OCS, you're gonna do night land navigation. And that usually means the sun's gonna set. And they're not going to allow you to use your headlamp without being fully under a tarp. And being under a tarp in the middle of the woods, trying to look at your notepad is a pain in the butt. So what a lot of guys did to be smart is they took a huge highlighter and they would highlight an entire page of their Right in the Rain. This made their text stick out even under the moonlight. So they didn't actually need to go under their tarp and put on their headlamp to look at what they were looking at. And if you can do that, if you can just have a highlighter with you, you can read things in the dark that you might not have been able to see had you not brought that tool. I highly recommend getting a highlighter, having one ready, because every time I had to look at my pace count and my compass bearing and the things that I needed to do to calculate where to go, I had to put on my tarp, completely seal it and tight it in, and make sure no light was getting in from my headlamp so an instructor didn't yell at me. A second mistake that I made, if you have not done a CFT or you are unfamiliar with how those things are actually set up, please continue just to watch videos on people doing CFTs. It's very confusing what some of the stations are, but during OCS, they're gonna set up CFT lanes that are like right alongside each other. And you're gonna get confused on which cones are yours and which ones are the buddies on your left or your right. Which ones are your buddies on your left and your right. So what I ended up doing is I took off, I did my first sprint to the J-hook. And as I did my J-hook, I started prone crawling into the lane on my right because I started looking at his cones and I thought that I was supposed to be on the left or right side of my buddy's cones. And it created this whole mess where I had to start all the way over while I was mid CFT, and it completely demolished my time. Watch videos on CFTs and really understand the lane prep that you need to mentally go through before you start just sprinting in the wrong direction. Number 3, I was so bad at remembering where I put my gear, and I would have constant anxiety about, did I pack my Gore-Tex? Did I actually pack my Right in the Rain? Did I pack the gear that was on the gear list? And no matter how many times I would shove things in my assault pack and I would correctly bring my gear, mentally, I never knew if I actually had it because I couldn't remember it because the environment is so fast-paced. So a really good trick that I would recommend if you are one of those people or you're good at losing things and you just don't remember where you put stuff, remember the orientation of the item. So let's say you needed to bring your BFA, your little red thing that you put on the end of your rifle. Let's say you needed to put it in your assault pack. When you put it into your pocket, memorize which direction it was facing when you put it in. Because then that is an extra layer of memory that you know you have the BFA, but now you can't remember which direction it was facing. So I would be able to tell you, I could tell you how my Gore-Tex was packed. Was the hoodie on the bottom or the top part? Which way was it rolled? And it sounds really trivial, but in those really stressful moments where people are moving really fast, that is just a really good mental reassurance that if you can remember the way an object was facing when you put it in, you know for sure that you had it. Number 4 is I overhydrated before I went on all the hikes to OCS. It's hot if you're going to OCS in the summertime and you're trying to figure out, right, if you're hydrated enough, you don't want to pass out, you don't want to get nauseous, throw up, like you don't want to get heat exhaustion, totally understandable. But then the other trick that people try to use to make sure that they're not hydrated is they overhydrate. The worst thing about drinking too much water before a hike is you don't get to decide when it's time to use the bathroom, right? You have to wait until those breaks happen every hour and a half. And I incorrectly judged how long it would take to do a 9-mile hike. So I would be pounding water before we even set foot on the trail. And I would have to pee so incredibly bad by like the 59th minute of the hour. And it just felt like the breaks were just not enough to fully go to the bathroom and get back on the trail. And It was so bad to the point where I thought that I would have to voluntarily fall out of the formation to go pee in the tree line. It really sucks to have your entire main pack on with your assault pack, all your gear in a line, and being trapped in that position until you have a mandated break. And then the fifth one is, honestly, I forgot to laugh and have fun. It's a very stressful environment because drill and sergeant instructors are yelling at you, and it's a lot of things you got to pay attention to, and you don't know what's going on. But some of the guys that thrived the most at OCS were guys that learned to laugh at some of the situations. There's some funny stuff that goes on at OCS. There's some really, really silly situations. There's some really dumb, funny things that you see candidates do that in a big picture scheme are not the end of the world. And so if you can just learn to laugh at yourself a little bit, laugh with your candidates, and just have like that sense of humor behind closed doors when the sergeant instructors, are giving you that downtime, it can do a lot for your morale and keep you going. I made plenty of other mistakes. And if you'd like to not make some of the same mistakes that I made, I have a course coming out. And I'm trying to just catalog everything that I've learned, everything that my friends have learned, and I'm trying to document it in one cohesive course that, in theory, anybody could take, and they could learn everything they need to know before they even set foot in the arena of ROTC, whatever branch you're joining. So be sure to check that out. Sign up for the link. It's not out yet. I will be releasing it ideally sometime this summer, but it's still in the works, and I'm just excited for the value that it will bring you guys as you ask me all these questions. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.